Everyone. Everyone see my screen okay?
Yep.
Great. All right. So welcome to today's topic of the energy reset, why you're tired and how to get your spark back. I'm Dr. Angie Elliott. I'm a functional medicine chiropractor here in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. And today we're going to cover a functional medicine approach to restoring your energy naturally. And I think fatigue is probably the most common thing that I hear in both my functional medicine and chiropractic practice. So my hope today is that we can shine some light on why so many suffer from fatigue and how you can get your energy back. And we're going to be talking throughout today how it is common to have low energy. It's common to have fatigue, but it is not normal. Those are two really, really different words. And you're going to kind of hear that today. Before we jump in, our usual disclaimer, the purpose of this webinar or this masterclass today is for educational purposes only. This does not enter us into a doctor-patient relationship, so please seek your trusted medical provider for any medical advice. All right, so let's jump in. If you were with me last week, if you would just type me in the chat, I'd love to see who's returning this week. I can see some familiar faces. Our topic today is around energy, and it's centered around the fact that you're already maybe getting good sleep, or you're getting good sleep and you're still tired, but we've already kind of checked the box on the good sleep in relation to fatigue. As we're going to go deeper into why aren't we having energy despite our sleep. So if you aren't sleeping well and you're tired, please go back and watch our sleep masterclass so you can gain all those tips and start there first. Then you can come to this one. So throughout our talk today, like the ones before, we'll be taking brief little breaks and just asking for your participation or writing things down. And I'll ask you for your one thing at the end. We're going to be making a energy plan. And so as you take your notes, we're going to be putting it all together at the end. So let's dive in and get started. As our opening quote suggests, if you're exhausted, you're not alone. Persistent exhaustion is a very, very common experience, especially for women. We wear a lot of hats and we're doing a lot of things, often all at one time, juggling and juggling and juggling. It's estimated 1 in 3 women experience chronic fatigue. So again, while it's very common, it's not normal. Those are two very different words. Unfortunately, conventional medicine often really fails to uncover any root causes for chronic fatigue, often leaving people without answers. And worse yet, being told, oh, that's normal, it's a part of aging, it's just a part of life, you're just tired. And then they send you out. Today, we're going to learn how to identify your unique energy drains and then create a personalized strategy to reset those energy levels. So let's dive in with energy. But we're going to start with a brief poll just to see where everybody's at today. And if you're with me, you can type in the chat. Otherwise, if you're watching the recording, just write down. When was the last time you truly felt energized? When did you feel like you had all the energy you needed to do all the things you needed in the day? So, I don't know where my chat went. I'm sorry, guys. I can't see my chat. I'm not sure where it went. But keep typing. And we'll keep going. Now, what time of day do you feel most tired? This is an important one to kind of tune into. Do you feel most tired in the morning? Do you feel most tired in the afternoon? When do you feel the most fatigue? We're going to use this answer later on as we go, as it can tie into and it can cue you into what might be causing that fatigue at that time of day. So. All right. And now a key point I want to leave you with before we move on is that energy isn't just about getting more sleep or enough sleep. It's about how well your body produces, stores, and then uses that energy. So the science of energy. Let's talk about how your body actually makes energy. Where does it come from? Our body runs on two main fuel sources, the oxygen that we breathe, and then the glucose that we eat. Oxygen is essential for every cell in the body to create something called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. This is a fundamental unit of energy that the body needs and makes. Glucose from your food is also a primary energy source. And when we consume more glucose than we need for energy, your liver will store that excess in the form of what's called glycogen. If your glycogen stores are full, it will then start to convert that excess glucose into fat. And that brings us then to ketones. Ketones are an alternative fuel source that comes from your fat stores. To use ketones as fuel, you have to burn through the available glucose in your bloodstream, which is from what you just ate. Then your body, when it runs out of that, will burn the stored glucose called glycogen in your liver. And when it's run out of that, if we still haven't eaten anything and taken in any glucose, it will then shift your metabolism, and it will shift gears, and it will start to burn ketones for energy. And these ketones come from fat. They're being burned by fat. When you're burning ketones, you are now in a state of what's called ketosis. Many of you have heard of this, and that's what that means. You often get into ketosis when you are fasting, maybe intermittent fasting or doing some longer fasting, or maybe following a keto type of diet. The main fuel in a keto type of diet is it's a diet very heavy in fat content. And that's because we need all that fat and very, very low glucose to be able to get the body to burn the fat instead of the glucose for energy. When you're in a state of ketosis, you have tremendous amounts of energy, but it takes a lot for your body to maintain this state. So while you might have heard a lot of really good things about ketosis, and they're very true, a lot of them are, when it comes to women in ketosis, I won't go too much into this, but I don't recommend a constant state of ketosis for women. It can benefit you short term, but in the long term, it can really stress the adrenals and stress the hormones. So, but thankfully it is there as our backup source should we need it. Our last one is mitochondria. The mitochondria are the power plants of our cells, and they're responsible for producing that ATP that powers our bodies. You might remember learning about this from biology class in high school. We have mitochondria all over the body. And if you don't have optimal oxygen and glucose levels, it will affect your mitochondria and therefore how much ATP energy that they can produce. So the mitochondria are really at the core of our energy production. Now, certain organs have more mitochondria than others, depending on what their energy need is. Can anyone guess what organs or tissues have the most mitochondria in the body? There's one organ that has the most. Can anyone guess what organ might have the most? I'm going to try to get my chat back here and see if I can figure it out. There we go. Liver, great guess. It is not the liver. Anyone else guess what organ has the most? This organ it is doing its job constantly, as all organs are, but it's working especially hard. It's made of muscle and it beats. It is the heart. Yes. Yes, it's the heart. Our heart statistically has the most mitochondria in it for all our organ systems. Those muscles are working all the time, thankfully. And so a lot of energy is needed to continue to push that blood through the heart and make those muscles contract. So, all right. Our key takeaway from this slide that I want to leave you with is that if our mitochondria aren't functioning properly, if you don't have proper balance of oxygen and glucose, you will feel exhausted no matter how much sleep you get. So that's why we're here today. I'm getting sleep, but I'm still exhausted. So now what do? Let's dive into some common root causes of that fatigue and that low energy. And the most common ones tend to fall in three categories. The first one is fuel supply issues. I'm not filling up my tank enough. I have problems with blood sugar, oxygen, or hydration that disrupt the ability to make enough energy to power my day. The next one is hormonal imbalances and mitochondrial health. Disruptions in your thyroid, your cortisol, your estrogen, and your energy ATP production are leading to that fatigue and that low energy. And the last one is toxin-loaded inflammation, liver congestion, stealth infections, gut issues. All of those overall will impact your ability to have and feel energy. So as you look at these three categories, which of them, if you're looking at them, what do you think at first glance might contribute for you, or what applies most to you, do you think? Anybody? Why do I keep? Right. For many of us, it's going to be a little bit of all of them. So let's dive into the three categories, starting with what is often the number one root cause that I see in the women I work with, which is blood sugar imbalances. It's estimated that up to 85% of the US population struggles with poor blood sugar regulation. That's a huge number. This means we need to address blood sugar regulation, even if you aren't diabetic, even if you feel like, oh, sure, my blood sugar is just fine. It might be, but what if it isn't and you aren't even aware of it? There is something called insulin resistance that happens before you become labeled or diagnosed as diabetic. And this is where the majority of the population may be, and they don't even know it. I've spent many hours researching this topic, and because I recognized it was such a fundamental need in helping women balance their hormones, created a whole 3-month course to help women balance those blood sugars and therefore balance their hormones. It is often the number one step that I take when women are coming to me wanting to balance those hormones. So this is a really key one to dive into. If your energy crashes in the afternoon, if you're wondering, well, I don't know if I have blood sugar issues, some of those symptoms are, I get energy crashes in the afternoon. I get that energy slump around 3 to 4. I have brain fog and poor memory issues. I put my phone down and then I can't remember where it is. I lost my keys and I don't know where my keys are and I'm just about to leave the house. Maybe you wake up at night between 2 and 4 and you're having a hard time getting to sleep, and that's consistent. I'm always waking up between 2 and 4. Or before a meal, you're starting to feel kind of irritable, or in our house, we call it a little hangry. Those are all signs of a possible blood sugar issues that need to be addressed. So what do we do about it? First, you could buy a glucometer. This is a little finger prick that you can do. You can pick it up from any normal store and you could test and just see what your blood sugars are. A healthy blood sugar for someone who wants an abundance of energy needs to be in the 80s. Not the 90s, not in the 100s, in the 80s. So first thing in the morning, you prick your finger and just see what it is. And I encourage you to do that for a few times in the day. And if it's in the 80s, you're doing great. If it's above the 80s, then you know this applies to you and you've got some work to do. The next step is if you buy a glucometer, now also throughout that day, check your blood sugar before you eat your lunch and then 2 hours later. That number should be in the 80s and close to what it was in the morning. It should be the same, about the same before lunch, and then about the same 2 hours later. If you see you woke up with an 85 before lunch, you're at an 87. After lunch, you're at an 86. Fantastic. You're great. You can skip this part and you can move on to the next one. If you wake up and you're in the 90s, you're at 95. At lunchtime, you're at 101. After lunchtime, you're at 115. Now you're on that slippery slope leading towards insulin resistance and diabetes. So let's turn that car around and start taking action before it becomes a larger, more inflammatory problem. Those higher numbers mean that you're on your way, and that's creating inflammation that is stealing your energy. So once you've done that, if you choose to test to find out, Now, what do we do? Some tips to get you started are, let's start with breakfast. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and I don't entirely disagree with that. So let's ditch the oatmeal, the cereal, the toast, the waffles, the pancakes, the sugary breakfast foods. Skip that whole aisle in the grocery store. You don't even need to go down it. If breakfast is the most important meal of the day, let's balance your blood sugars with it. Open up your food choices to anything in your fridge, and you'll find it much easier to prioritize protein, fiber, and healthy fats at every single meal, including your breakfast. This morning, my son had a little bit of a piece of toast, and he had hamburger. Regularly, my kids are eating leftover meats out of the fridge, chicken. We had some pulled pork, and we had some ground beef. So those were their options. Sometimes they'll have eggs, but they get a little burned out on eggs. And so we've opened up our breakfast to any food, which made it so much easier, because so many people come to me going, but I don't want eggs. I can't eat eggs all the time. Right now, eggs are really expensive, so you might not even be able to get any. So a non-egg option is any protein that's in your fridge. It can be anything. And this just makes life a whole lot easier. Another tip is to cut out snacking. A very common thing you're going to hear out there in social media and certain gurus out there is that we need to eat 3 meals and then we need to snack. So you're eating 6 times a day. Now, the problem with this is it's often going to leave you on a blood sugar roller coaster. I don't know a single person that's going to consistently, every single snack, choose something that's only protein and fiber. When we snack, we want carbs. And those carbs are going to impact your blood sugars, and they're going to often shoot them up. The other thing is when we're constantly eating every 2 to 3 hours, we're training our metabolism that it needs to run off of a constant stream of incoming glucose. So it won't ever get to that stored glycogen. It won't ever burn any of that off. That often leads to insulin resistance. That often moves you towards diabetes, because this constant stream of glucose that's often more than we need keeps inching that up, and we never get to burn what is stored. We never get to reset. It's also a bit hard on your gut and on your body in general. Our body really loves to eat a bit and then rest a little, and then eat a little and rest a little. And having that rest time where there isn't a constant source of food coming in to digest, to break down, to do something with, gives our gut a little bit of a break. That can help with motility. It can help with constipation and bloating. And we'll get more into that next week at our masterclass. So when it comes to snacking, again, we're going to cut out the snacks, but especially the snack after dinner, your last meal of the day. Ideally, we're not eating 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed. This will help your energy levels. This will help your sleep and your cortisol levels as well. Another tip is to not eat your carbs alone. If you want some crackers, some chips, have a nut butter or a protein with it. Grab some chicken or some lunch meat out of the fridge. Always pair it with a protein and a fiber to slow down the release of those carbohydrates, that glucose from that snack that you're eating. So ultimately, many times we need to choose more vegetables, more meat proteins, more healthy fats and nuts and seeds, and less processed food at the end of the day. So keeping that in mind as you're looking at your diet overall. All right. From blood sugar regulation, the next most common cause of fatigue is hydration or poor hydration. So hydration is crucial to overall health and well-being. And a rule of thumb, I'm sure you've heard, is half your body weight in ounces of water daily. Ultimately, following the color of your urine as well as your thirst cues can be most helpful. The goal is for a pale urine color. So if you're accomplishing that overall, you're probably doing really great with your hydration. If you're not, then we need to bump it up a little bit. If you notice you're feeling an energy slump at any time of day, I highly recommend you first drink water and then wait about 20 minutes and just wait to see if your energy lifts. I love electrolytes. I talk about them all the time. You can throw some of those and it just helps you get more hydration out of your water. If that doesn't work, then keep utilizing and come back to the other strategies that I'm going to share with you throughout this class. One of my favorite recommendations when it does come to water are electrolytes with water first thing in the morning before you have your caffeine or your cup of coffee. The reason for this is your brain literally shrinks and it dehydrates overnight as you're sleeping. So we want to do our body and our brain a favor by rehydrating it as our number one priority first thing in the morning before we drink our coffee, our caffeine, our tea that will dehydrate it. When you do this, you're going to notice a lift of energy. You're going to notice your memory and your concentration will get better as we focus on our nerve system first and foremost. Personally, what I do in the morning, almost every morning, is I love mixing the unflavored LMNT electrolyte with my magnesium powder. I use Optimag Neuro from Zymogen, and I mix them together. That just gives me the Optimag Neuro with a lemon lime flavor. And so I get a little bit of that flavor. I get my magnesium in and check that box for the day. I get my hydration in, and it's just a great way to start my day. Now, some people will say, I don't like the taste of water. So ideas are adding fruits and vegetables to the water. They can really change the flavor. You can mix it up. You can use oranges, cucumbers, mint, grapefruit. You can really experiment and just have a little fun with it. If you're really up for a challenge, replacing your coffee with an alternative can really help and go a long ways with your energy. Sometimes that caffeine that you're having in the morning, while it might appear to give you that energy boost, is truly creating the fatigue that you're feeling in the afternoon. One of the coffee alternatives that I have landed on is called Mudwater, and it is a mushroom coffee. There are a lot of good ones out there in the market. That just has landed to be my favorite. And I've really grown to really like it. So I've replaced the majority of my coffee with that and really notice that has helped my energy levels stay really sustainable. So, all right, the next one is breathing. Remember how I talked about glucose and oxygen are our primary sources of fuel for the body. So why some of you might not be feeling energized is due to the short, shallow chest breathing that we tend to do throughout the day. When we're breathing primarily in our chest and not through our diaphragm, we are actually depriving our body of the oxygen we might need to feel energized. So to improve our breathing, we can start with more movement in our daily routines. These activities that make us breathe harder will help circulate more oxygen around the body. We can practice deep breathing exercises regularly and taking time to focus on those slow, deep breaths to retrain our body to breathe more efficiently, to get that diaphragm involved and moving, to really fill up our lungs from the side, from the front, and from the back. That's what we call 360-degree breathing, which means I use all of my body, not just my chest. A key part of deep breathing that can be really helpful just to remember and tuck in your back pocket is when we take a breath in, it doesn't matter how many counts you count, but ideally our exhale is longer than our inhale. So if I breathe in for 4, I breathe out for 5, great, you've accomplished that. This will help bring in oxygen, but at the same time, calm the nerve system and shift you out of that fight or flight stress mode and into that rest and digest parasympathetic mode. When we're in that mode, we will be able to take in oxygen more efficiently. And your adrenal glands, your stress response are really going to thank you. So, all right. One option for deep breathing that we're going to do today that many of you have probably heard of is called square breathing. And this originated from what I understand from the Navy SEALs. And it's very simple. We're going to count in for a count of 4 or count up, count in, breathe in. Sorry. Breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, and then hold for a count of 4. And so just planning accordingly. Let's just do that together. Take a big breath in for 1, 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4. And one more time, breathe in for 4, hold for 4, Exhale for 4. Hold for 4. Great. Throughout our master classes, we've been covering different styles of deep breathing. Just feel free to use whichever one resonates most with you. While you're breathing, you can put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly, and while you're breathing, try to make sure that the hand on your chest isn't moving very much and that the hand on your belly is moving. That allows us to push that breath down, push it out into the ribs, push it out into the back, so we can really circulate that oxygen and get that flowing and get that benefit while we're doing the deep breath, while we're doing that slow breathing. If we're doing square breathing all in our chest, we honestly lose the benefit. So drop that breath down and really fill up that lung cavity. So, all right. Whoop, let me go back. I skipped one. Hormones. Let's talk about hormone imbalances. These can be major drains on your energy and well-being. And we're going to talk about 3 common issues and how to support them naturally. First, we're going to look at estrogen, and the very commonly unknown one when it comes to low energy is estrogen. When our estrogen is low, and it can be low for several reasons. You could be in perimenopause or menopause. You could be struggling with stress. There can be many different things, not just age-related, that lead to lower estrogen levels, lower than optimal for your age. When estrogen is low, it will reduce oxygen and it will reduce the blood flow to the brain and to the muscles. It also impacts your thyroid and it lowers thyroid production. If you remember from our hormone masterclass, we talked about the hormone twins, T3 and T4. And low estrogen makes it hard for those twins, that T3 and T4, to do their work and make energy. It actually keeps them from doing their work. That means low estrogen then leads to a thyroid issue, leaving you really tired. So let's talk about thyroid. Or actually, let's talk about how do we support our estrogen? What do we do? To support estrogen, we can try to incorporate flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, and resistance training for resistance training. I like to do it for the first 2 to maybe 3 weeks of your menstrual cycle. Estrogen really loves movement. It loves activity. It loves HIIT workouts. It loves running. It loves all the things, but progesterone really doesn't. Progesterone wants to just take it easy and do some gentle yoga and let's just go for a walk. So in that week or 2 leading up to your cycle, if you're trying to balance your hormones, just follow your cycle's cues and you can kind of take it easy during that week. So estrogen also responds, just like progesterone does, to stress or an abundance of cortisol. So if you're struggling with estrogen levels, again, that flax seeds and pumpkin seeds can really help, but we might need to address the amount of cortisol and the amount of stress that is creating the problem in the first place. So, all right, let's jump to thyroid. This is probably the #1 thing women ask me when they're feeling fatigued is, do I have a thyroid problem? Or I've been to my doctor and my doctor tells me my thyroid's fine, but yeah, I'm still wondering if I have a thyroid problem. A sluggish thyroid can slow metabolism, create a lot of brain fog, weight gain, and every single cell, organ, and system we have in the body actually interacts with our thyroid hormones. So thyroid hormones will also interact with our mitochondria and therefore impact that ATP energy production. You can actually have something that's called cellular hypothyroidism. What this means is that the thyroid gland is actually just fine. It's doing its job, it's producing its hormones, but yet those hormones aren't able to get in and do their work at the cellular level. Then this leads to fatigue at that organ or at that tissue. So you can have low thyroid symptoms, but have very normal looking blood tests, which is very, very frustrating because now your doctor is going to tell you you're fine, but yet you're not. So some nutrients that your thyroid needs for optimal function are selenium, zinc, and iodine. You can get those by improving gut health to make sure that you're absorbing them and digesting them well. You can get them from foods such as Brazil nuts, pumpkin seeds and dried seaweed is really great for iodine support. So the last one we'll touch on is cortisol disruption. High cortisol often leaves us with a feeling of being wired at night and then exhausted in the morning. That wired but tired feeling of I'm laying here at night and I can't fall asleep. And I'm just twiddling my thumbs, frustrated that I can't fall asleep. Or I wake up in the middle of the night and my brain's going and I just can't fall asleep. That's a wired but yet tired feeling that often has a cortisol disruption running underneath it. Now, there are many, many things. We could be here all day long talking about how to support cortisol, but some places you can start are morning sunlight, any breath work that we've talked about, any breath work that you've tried, and I love magnesium to help support and regulate blood or cortisol levels. Adaptogenic herbs can be really, really great. I love ashwagandha and rhodiola. One of my favorite supplements for adrenal support is from Gaia Herbs called Daytime HPA. And I think almost everyone could use a little bump and help in that adrenal support category. So when I'm working one-on-one with clients, working on cortisol and stress is the cornerstone of what we're doing pretty much the entire time we're working together. Because if you haven't caught on already, the majority of our symptoms could have their root in that and that alone. And that high cortisol can create all the other issues and all the other symptoms that we're struggling with. I created a small mini 7-day challenge called Chaos to Calm. And in this, I give you short little bite-sized bits of information that will help you lower your cortisol and finally just start to get a bit of a grip on that stress response. So if you are sitting here going, I could use a little more help in this category, Alicia, if you want to drop that into the chat, it is super easy. It is created for people who are really stressed, so it's short. And most of it is just reading with links to videos if you want to see how some of the stress techniques are done. So it is $7 for 7 days. So it's only $1 a day. So, all right. So I'd love to hear how we're doing so far. We have covered blood sugar, hydration. We're talking about hormones, breathing. How have any of these root causes resonated with you so far? Are you checking all the boxes, some of them? Which ones are standing out to you so far? What do we got? A little bit of all of it. Yes. Support with more morning sunlight and breath work. I love it. I do breath work in my morning. The morning sunlight's tough. I mean, oftentimes the sun's not up when I get up. If I can, I try to take the dog for a short little walk before I go to the office, but that one can be a really tough time. So can you use red light instead? Yes. So it's not the same effect as true sunlight, but it is a fantastic alternative when the sun's not going to come up for a few hours yet, or you just can't get out yet. So red light in the morning and then red light at night. That red light can mimic the sun rising and the sun setting. And so those red hues are really great for mitochondrial health, and we'll touch on that. They're great for energy production, and they're great for melatonin production that we talked about in our sleep masterclass. So I like it. All right, let's move on to mitochondria. So these are the powerhouses of our cells, and they are responsible for generating 90% of our body's energy. Ultimately, if we are having any issues with cortisol, oxygen, glucose, ketones, any of it, it creates a mitochondrial problem. And when mitochondrial function declines, we experience muscle fatigue, slow recovery, and persistent exhaustion. This is often caused by inflammation and oxidative stress, it's called, that can then damage mitochondria. Oxidative stress is quick aging in the body. You will see if you ever have an apple that you've cut up and then maybe you forgot it and you left it on the counter and it turned brown, that's oxidative stress. Oxygen is touching and reacting with those cells of the apple, and it's aging it, it's damaging it, it's breaking down the cell walls of the apple. That's oxidative stress, and that happens inside the body as it slowly damages and ages the different tissues in our body, including our mitochondria. To restore mitochondrial health and boost energy levels, we can use any of the strategies we've talked about so far, because truly anything that decreases stress and inflammation internally in the body is going to support your mitochondria. Other specific ideas for just mitochondrial health are consuming superfoods. Think of the foods for antioxidant support that are lots of different colors, eating the colors of the rainbow, the reds, the yellows, the purples, the whites. All those different colors create the antioxidant support to counterbalance the damage that might be being done to your mitochondria. Using red light therapy, and you can use that in the morning. Now you get it for benefit of the melatonin production, but it also helps with the health of your mitochondria. And then reducing exposure to toxins. Toxins in our environment, from our water, our air, the things we're putting on our skin, all the things we're around are often one of the biggest things that is damaging and creating inflammation that damages our mitochondria. So some ideas around supporting mitochondria include reducing the amount of plastic in your home, getting a water filter or an air filtration unit for your home, using clean organic cosmetics, lotions, skin and hair care products. Anything that touches your skin is a really, really good place to start. Now, when you're looking at this, you might go, whoa, this is a little overwhelming. I'm not sure. I feel like there's just too much to do here. But you can look around your house and just start making a list of what are the things that I could switch out for an upgraded option. And then you can just start with one thing at a time. Maybe I pick my foundation and I pick out different makeup. Maybe I go with my body wash. I often start with the things that touch my skin first, the things I might drink, like my water, the air around me, and I start there first and then go through. So replacing plastic containers with glass is another really great option. By supporting our mitochondria, we can truly overcome that chronic fatigue and feel more energized and vibrant. So I'd love to hear, has anyone here ever tried red light therapy, or do you use red light therapy? No? It is pretty affordable to get in your home, and there are a lot of different places, it seems, that offer it as an additional bonus add-on, which can be really fun. So one company, I think Alicia, you might know, I think is it Joov, Joov, I think is a really common one that people use and really seem to like. I've used EMR-TEK, EMR Tech is another great one if anyone is in the market and looking. So, all right. We've got two more left. We're going to talk about liver and toxin buildup, and then just briefly touch onto gut health before we start making your energy reset plan. So toxins can build up in the body, leading to a range of unpleasant symptoms like brain fog, sluggish digestion, skin issues, eczema, dryness, patchiness, redness, all the things, and persistent fatigue. Common sources of toxins include plastics, pesticides, heavy metals, and even mold exposure. I read an article a couple days ago that found the human brain contains microplastics. A spoonful amount was found in cadavers that were studied in 2024. This is really alarming and a little bit scary to think that plastics are making their way into my brain. And we don't fully understand the implications of this yet, but I cannot imagine it's going to be very good. There was also a study that came out a couple months ago, or I came across it a couple months ago, that showed that there were microplastics found in 100% of cord blood of newborn babies. I forget the sample size, but it was really large. And that means all these babies are born with microplastics already circulating throughout their bloodstream. So that's pretty heartbreaking to think about. Their start in life is already with a toxic burden that they don't even know about. So this means we all need to support detoxification, and we can focus on it through our lymph, our liver, and our gut. Using diet, you can use supplements if you wish to, and then just different lifestyle practices that we've already kind of been talking about. So eating liver-rich foods such as berries, nuts, and seeds, and grass-fed meats, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts, and using infrared saunas to get that sweat going. Epsom salt baths all can help facilitate detoxification. One of my favorite supplements, I'm often asked, what's a supplement you use for detoxification? There are many, and I personally pick it independent of the person, but a common one that is pretty good is called milk thistle. It's an herb, and it's pretty reliable and pretty effective at helping support liver detoxification. So now let me back up 1 second. So it is very common to come across out there on YouTube and social media that let's do this detox program, this 7-day detox, this 3-day detox, this whatever it is, or this heavy metal detox. And a word of caution when you come across this. While detoxification is great, we want to make sure that that's the step your body needs at this moment. With detoxification, we first want to open up drainage pathways, then we can detoxify. But is your gut ready for it? If we have a leaky gut, which are small holes in the lining of your intestine, that as things pass through, if they go through those holes, they go into your bloodstream. Please, if you're approaching a detox, make sure you do not have a leaky gut and you're trying to detox. That often will lead to those toxins, instead of leaving your body, they will go into your bloodstream and they will go to places you don't want them to go. It's not a safe way to detox. So avoiding some of these detox fads and making sure that your gut is healthy and strong enough to maneuver and navigate a detox is really, really helpful. So supporting lymph flow. Lymph is, it flows through our body. We've got lymph nodes all over the body. I'm sorry, I'm losing my words today. They're in the neck, they're in the armpits, the groin, the stomach, and these lymph nodes are helpful at helping the body detoxify and pull those toxins out. You can help with that process or assist that process by using a dry brush where you brush your skin. And there's lots of different videos on YouTube out there. You can use a rebounder, which is a mini trampoline that you jump on, or just moving and exercising. Your muscles are what pushes lymph around. So the more you move, the less you sit, the more you're going to facilitate that lymph flow moving through the body and helping flush those toxins. So, all right, so not to get too personal, but let's assess how well your detox pathways are functioning. These detox pathways are how your body eliminates toxins and gets them out of the body. This means we need to poop, sweat, and urinate a pale color daily. So you don't need to share this in the chat, but just ask yourself, am I doing these 3 things every single day? If we aren't pooping daily, which is very common and something I hear a lot, we've been led to think it's normal when no, it's just really common. That can lead to a buildup of toxins in the body. For healthy detoxification, we aim to pass, get this, 1 foot of stool per day. If you're doing that, that is a fantastic drainage pathway. Your body is ready to detoxify because it can take those toxins and it can move them out of the body. It helps you get rid of them. If you're not pooping every day and up to 1 foot of stool, then we might want to pause and work on that first before you jump into any detox type of strategy. So we're going to dive more into that in our gut health masterclass, because that's often a big root of why we need to work on some of that. So, all right. This brings me to digestion. We're going to just briefly touch on it today, because proper digestion and nutrient absorption are critical for energy production and just overall health. If you can't break your food down properly, you won't get the energy and the nutrients your body needs. Nutrient deficiencies, especially in B vitamins and iron, can lead to fatigue and health issues. Stress also depletes B vitamins. When I personally started incorporating methylated B vitamins through a multivitamin into my routine, my energy took a huge turn and I felt great. I love them. Getting them through food is best, but if you need a supplement, then working with someone, a professional, a functional medicine provider to figure out what form of B vitamins can really be a game changer if you're struggling with fatigue. So we talked about just a little bit about leaky gut, but inflammation in the gut or leaky gut requires a lot of energy for the body to manage, and that can contribute to feelings of fatigue. Addressing these digestive challenges and reducing inflammation in the gut is a really, really important step to gaining energy and vitality. So join me next week as we dive into that topic in great depth. All right, we've covered a lot of information so far. How's everybody doing? Just a thumbs up if you are still with me. Excellent. Let's do some work now. We've been taking things in. Hopefully you've been writing down some tips all along the way. We're going to take those tips and we are going to start to make your energy reset plan. So for this, we're going to identify first your top 3 energy drains. And I have a cheat sheet for you that Alicia is going to drop into the chat for you. And you can download this. You can take this with you. This provides you a summary of today's class. So you can continue this work and keep doing this work beyond this time that we are together. So, but with this, it summarizes our most common energy drains. So picking what you believe might be your top 3 can help you get out of the overwhelm of knowing where to start and just starting somewhere. Next, you'll select one specific habit to focus on, just one, that you can start this week to start improving your energy. You can use anything that I've shared with you. If something has come to you on your own throughout that sounded good, just use what came up for you. Then you'll create your action plan to implement the habit. How are you going to schedule it? How are you going to do it? What do you need to do? If it's water with electrolytes, then I need to make sure I buy them, that I have them out. Maybe I even set out my cup in the morning. I get my cup, I set it out right next to my electrolytes. So when I come into the kitchen, I go directly to it and I fill it up. And then I start warming up water for my mud water coffee. And then I drink it while I'm letting the dogs out and doing all the other things. I build it into my habit and I schedule it until it is a habit. So, all right. So my personal approach to energy, my energy is great most of the time. And it's taken a lot of work to get there. So I, like most of you, am juggling a lot of things. I'm constantly paying attention to my stress response, but yeah, I really dialed and I spend a lot of time focusing on this. So what's worked first for me is that I start my day with water and electrolytes first thing in the morning. I ditch the coffee. If anyone knows me, I love coffee. I really love coffee. This was a very hard step to do, but it was another game changer because I really started to recognize coffee was making me tired in the afternoon. So I switched to mud water coffee because that caffeine just wasn't working for me. I do some deep breathing exercises. Sometimes it's a minute and it's a couple square breathing and I'm done. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, just depends on how tired I feel. Then I have a blood sugar friendly breakfast. We are commonly eating leftovers. I'll make yogurt with chia seeds and some keto type of granola, something that just really gives me sustainable energy. So I have a history of some blood sugar dysregulation that I never knew about until I was doing research. And by prioritizing my meals, that was huge. That and my methylated B vitamins, my hydration turned around the majority of my energy. So I take a methylated B vitamin. I work on balancing my hormones constantly. I work out. I do have an air purifier in our home and a water purifier. And then I wind down with my evening routine with some of the tips that we talked about last week. So we can prepare for that good night's sleep so I can still keep that sleep as a primary focus as well. So those are just a few things that work for me. If I'm feeling tired or need a little boost of energy, I go to water first to see, am I just dehydrated? Have I not been really drinking very well? So I would love it if you ladies would share what's one thing you're adding to your plan. Doesn't have to be your number one, just one. All right. We've got adding breath work in the morning, adding electrolytes and breathing exercises. Yes. Now, with breathing exercises, it's possible to get a little bit lightheaded. And that's a sign I'm just breathing. So if you're a little new to breathing exercises, do them while you're sitting so you don't get dizzy or lightheaded. I don't want you hurting yourself. So, but that can be a bit surprising for people. So, all right. Any other, let's jump into just a question or a Q&A. I'm going to open up the floor for any questions that have come up throughout. So I love coffee too much, but mud water is really good. It is really good. There's a lot of good ones out there. I never thought I could give up coffee either, but here we are. So any questions that anyone has that's come up throughout that you haven't asked yet? Nothing? All right. So some common myths that I hear or common questions I'll have is, well, what about caffeine? What do you think? And we've touched on this a little bit, but caffeine doesn't really fix fatigue. It just masks it. And it commonly will leave you with more and more fatigue as you continue to use it. So considering at least reducing the amount of caffeine you're drinking. Other tips are if you're waking up earlier in the morning, not having it until at least 2 hours after you're awake and stopping before noon. So I have it later in the day. I don't shoot my cortisol levels up by having caffeine or coffee on an empty stomach. So I've eaten, I've been awake for a couple hours. Now I'll have some coffee with a full stomach and I stop by lunchtime. Can be really helpful. So many people will say, well, if I just get more sleep, I'll have more energy, right? And you should know the answer to this one by now. It's not always about the amount of sleep. It's about how our body is utilizing and if it's utilizing the energy that we're giving it. And many of my clients are told by their doctors, well, just try exercising more. And that might work for some, and that might be exactly what we need for some to get that oxygen into the bloodstream. But for others, it leaves you even more frustrated and tired. You just feel exhausted by exercise instead of energized. That's often an underlying adrenal problem, and that is something to kind of continue to explore and dive into with a functional medicine provider. So, all right. So I'll leave you with Krista's story. Krista was one of the women that joined my 3-month Reimagine Wellness course, and her results were incredible. She went from exhausted to full of energy in less than 3 months. She lost 30 pounds and she ended up feeling better than she ever thought she could. She didn't even really think she had a blood sugar issue, but she just was desperate to have more energy. And after talking, we felt like this is a really great place to start. And in our 3-month program, we focus on blood sugar balancing as the main hub, but we also are talking about movement, stress, sleep, and food, clearly, are our 4 pillars that we cover throughout that. I'm not enrolling new members at this time, but we might be opening up enrollment in the spring. So as you incorporate these tips into your lifestyle, if you notice you need more help with energy and blood sugar balancing, if you think that might be at the root and you're not figuring it out on your own, please feel free to reach out and I'm happy to share information with you about that. So where do we go from here? Well, your energy journey ideally continues beyond this point. Alicia has shared the free energy reset cheat sheet in the chat. This is a downloadable guide that you can take with you to continue working on that energy plan. My hope for you is that you truly write things down, you make that plan, and you start implementing one thing at a time. Maybe it's one per week, maybe it's one every 3 days. but really start taking these action steps that really truly can work for you. If you're watching this as a recording, the link will be in the follow-up email, or it's also going to be eventually available on our website. So next week's masterclass dives deeper into gut health. It is next Friday, same time and same place. So I hope you can join me. And if you're tired of the constant fatigue and ready for one-on-one support, then please just click the link in the chat to schedule your free 30-minute health solutions call. We'll take time to chat, figure out your main energy drains, as well as if we're a good fit together. And I promise no pressure, no crazy sales tactics, just a supportive conversation. So, and finally, again, get started on that energy reset plan so you can focus on fueling your body the right way, not just getting more rest. So thank you very, very much for joining me today. I know your time is very valuable. I am very grateful that you were here. So remember to pick that one thing, because small steps taken consistently can truly lead to transformation. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye, guys.